Raise your glass to the hard-working people.
There is a word for a misheard lyric.
What's the word?
It is mondegreen. My brother thought the Lord's Prayer was lead us not into Penn Station.
It's the simplicity and the complexity at once. The way that the Stones do that is so different than the way the Beatles do that.
The harmonic rhythm of the changes is so fucked.
There's something else going on this album, Beggar's Banquet. It's the disappearance of Brian Jones.
Shows and at parades of gray-suited grafters, a choice of cancer or polio.
Musicians react.
Welcome back to PMR. I'm so excited about this episode today. We have Tony Berg joining us. We got Ryan Lerman. We got an awesome episode. We're going to be talking about Rolling Stones songs that you have not heard. And I'll just let you know, I have not heard these songs. This will be a legit reaction session to these songs. I'm psyched about it.
We have 3 songs. We're going to be listening to Memo from Turner, Salt of the Earth, and She Smiled Sweetly. Okay, Tony Berg. We're going to be here a while because Tony has a long and storied bio. Tony's a legend. Tony is a producer, musician, guitar player. Got his start as the MD for the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Guitars.
Guitars at
What
the
an
Roxy.
insane gig that must have been.
It was insane.
He was the MD for Bette Midler. This is an abbreviation. He's played with Tom Waits, Quincy Jones, Peter Gabriel, many others, produced recordings for Amy Mann, Bob Dylan, Randy Newman, Squeeze, Bruce Hornsby, Edie Brickell, Fiona Apple, Andrew Bird, Phoebe Bridgers, Ethan Gruska. The list goes on. He was an exec VP of A&R at Geffen and Virgin, where he signed Beck, Remy Zero, Blue Man Group, signed many others at those places. You A&R'd Joni Mitchell, Counting Crows, Peter Gabriel, and Pat Metheny. Scored dozens of TV shows. You were the owner of the original home studio of Los Angeles, Zeitgeist, which was in your backyard.
It was.
Many of my favorite albums were recorded there. And now he's the co-owner of Sound City with Blake Mills.
Correct.
Protege Blake Mills.
Good night.
Tony, you signed Beck.
Did.
What was that like to sign Beck?
It was a great stroke of luck. I was played loser.
I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? Crazy with the cheese.
It was finished, mixed and mastered, and I invited him over to the house. He played me a lot of music. I said, would you play me what you think is your most beautiful song? And he played me a song called MTV Makes Me Want to Smoke Crack.
MTV makes me wanna smoke crack, fall out of the window and I'm never coming back.
And I thought, this is the guy I want to work with. And subsequently, 11 other offers came in, but we were lucky enough to get to work with him.
How'd you hear about him?
You know, a guy who had been the assistant engineer on the first record I ever produced, a guy named Tom Rothrock, had heard I had just started at Geffen a couple of weeks earlier, and he called me up and said, I have this young guy signed to my production company. Can I come play it for you? I mean, I was just so lucky.
So Tom Rothrock was the engineer of the first record.
The assistant engineer on I produced a band called Broken Homes.
Okay.
And he was the assistant at Cherokee.
And he went on to produce Elliott Smith, right?
He and Rob Schnapf.
That's right. Produced XO?
Correct.
Yeah.
Very talented.
What a record. We are also joined by Tim Sonnefeld over here. Tim is engineering for the day, and Tim is a Grammy award-winning producer, an engineer, multi-instrumentalist, arranger. Tim has worked with my band, Pomplamoose and Scary Pockets, has also worked with Usher and Rancid and Elvis Costello and so many others. Tim, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
It's so good to be here with you guys.
All right, we're going to start with a question for the three of us here. What's an underrated song that you've been listening to recently that you think folks at home should know about?
Wow, that's a good question.
This is the guy for this question because Tony has a whole playlist of...
I do. You know, the thing is, what I listen to 99% of the time is young unsigned artists. So I could list a number of songs. There was a great band called the Honey Dogs, and they had a song called Stonewall that was stunning.
They have a secret code
I have one that we just recorded for Stories that I don't remember if I've mentioned her on this show before, but we recorded Loping Along Through the Cosmos, Judy Sill.
Loping along through the cosmos, and sideways I slide through the square.
I saw an artist recently perform at South by when I was at South by. Jake Wesley Rogers has
Yeah.
a song called Pluto.
When I was a kid, Pluto was still a planet. I'm still kind of sad about it.
I love it. Okay, we're going to jump into our first song. This is Memo from Turner from Mick Jagger.
Tim, you want to tell us about the song?
All right, so this is a song from the movie Performance that Mick Jagger starred in alongside James Fox. There are actually 3 different versions of the song. The first version wasn't officially released. It's a slower version recorded by the members of Traffic, with Steve Winwood playing all instruments except for drums, which were played by Jim Capaldi. The second version was released on the Stones' compilation album Metamorphosis. It's a lot more upbeat than the other 2 versions, and it sounds completely different from the film version. The last version was recorded for the soundtrack to the movie. It was written by Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. Ry Cooder is playing the slide guitar, Randy Newman conducted it, and Jack Nietzsche, who's actually a mentor to Tony, was the producer and arranger.
He was. In fact, Russ Titleman is playing on that track. I think
he really?
He's playing rhythm guitar.
Let's listen to it. Here we go.
Down in San Antone on a hot and dusty night. We were eating eggs and Sammy's when the black man there drew his knife.
Oh my God!
Oh, wow, that's fucking great.
I have so many questions.
I can't believe I'd not heard that before. That's beautiful.
So it was written for the movie?
I believe so, but the curious thing is, there's a lot of backstory from my perspective, because Jack Nietzsche really was my mentor. I spent 3 or 4 years with him almost every day when I was in my early 20s.
And what did he do for that song?
Well, he produced it. He scored the film Performance. He really helped bring Ry Cooder in particular to the public consciousness. Jack was a remarkable guy. He arranged all the Phil Spector records. He played on and arranged the first 6 or 7 Stones albums, the first 4 Neil Young records, and then became a very celebrated film composer.
Wow.
And he was scoring this terrific film Performance. The Stones submitted their version of this song, as was mentioned, and he loved the song and loved Mick's vocal and thought the recording wasn't great. So he replaced everybody.
So ballsy.
No, wait, when you say he replaced everybody,
Kept Mick's vocal.
he kept the actual vocal recording.
And replaced all the players.
So that recording of Mick's vocal was made over the Rolling Stones.
That's what
backing
I was
track.
told.
And
That's
then
what Jack told me.
they took everybody
Yeah.
else out. So he was recording in an ISO booth or something, and they just had
Whatever they did, there it is.
What year was this?
69, 70?
So were people using clicks at this point?
No?
So they would have
Certainly not the Stones.
retracked to
the drum beat or something.
to the drums from the
I
original.
guess.
Removed.
I mean, this is how it was described to me, and it could be apocryphal, but I think it's better that we believe that story.
It's fun to believe it.
It's fun to believe it. The first thing that jumps out to me is that wonderful, spongy, grungy thing on the right side.
The fuzzy
Distorted
bass.
bass.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
What a sound.
Yeah.
An
What a sound.
incredible sound. Can we listen to that again? It's just
Yeah, it's a perfectly distorted bass.
it's so cloudy
Yeah.
and fluffy
and doesn't interfere
No.
with the
Yeah.
other bass.
it's mixed so well on the right side
Yeah.
there. Let's listen to that.
It almost sounds like preamp distortion, like they just overdrove
Could be.
preamp.
Could be one of those amps, an acoustic amp that had a built-in distortion. I don't know.
It's got so much air on top of it.
Yes.
It's most distortions when you record it through a guitar amp, something it rolls off after 7 or 8K. This has all that lovely 10K fuzz above it, you
It's
know?
just crazy.
It balances out Rye's guitar. I mean, my not knowing, hearing the two guitars on the left, this is an odd panning situation. You would not expect this.
No.
You would expect two guitars, bass and drums, and vocal down the middle.
Ryan, it's the 60s.
Right. There were substances.
People weren't
involved.
thinking like that.
Right, but how cool is that? Two guitars on the left, bass or drums. It's hard from where I'm sitting.
Wait,
Or
what do you mean? What do you mean it's the 60s? What is it?
I mean, it was an era of experimentation and unorthodoxy, and records weren't meant to imitate and mimic other records.
People were
they were
trying
meant to
shit.
trailblazes.
That's right.
Trailblazes, I just said.
Trailblazes. I like it. Let's keep
Yeah,
it.
they were meant to trailblaze.
Let's trail some blazes today.
Okay, so you think those are both Rye.
No, well,
Hearing it for the first time, it sounds like
I mean,
Rye.
the slide is
slide is
clearly
Rye.
And we should talk about Rye because what a talent. What a
Oh my
contributor.
God.
I mean, he's one of the defining instrumental voices of the last 60 years.
Totally.
A remarkable player. I will tell you an anecdote that reflects poorly on me.
I like where this is going.
I was playing guitar on a big session for Jack. We were scoring a film, I believe, called Hardcore. That was it, a Paul Schrader film. And Rye and I were the two guitarists.
Oh my God.
Jack liked to write in odd time signatures. So you'd have a 7/8 bar followed by a 3/4 bar, etc. Rye isn't really a reader per se. And he was playing slide, I was playing rhythm guitar. And it was a struggle for Rye because the time signatures were all over the place. And Jack said the one thing he should not have said. Why don't you guys trade parts?
Oh God.
I'm going to play slide guitar in front of
Oh,
Rye
God.
Kuhn. Rye stood up and left.
Wait, why did Jack say that? Why do you want you to trade parts?
No, because he thought I'd be able to play through the time signature more.
But you'd think the guy
Fluidly.
playing rhythm guitar is more important that he'd be able to follow. The
I
time
think Jack
signature.
was just not thinking. And
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
He actually left.
oh yeah, he stood up and left.
Wait,
'Cause-
can we got to dig into this story for a second because
we dug into it pretty hard.
I think that's such a special thing. I know so many musicians who are incredible at certain things, but then they don't read, or they
Yeah.
actually are not as strong at, whatever, theory or
On
something.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're like the most amazing melodists. And they have imposter syndrome about these things. I can think of probably 3 or 4 people I'm very close to who have this sense of like, oh, I must not be one of the real musicians. I'm like, no, you're like one of the most incredible melody writers in the world, maybe,
Yeah.
but you just don't have those.
You know, you're touching upon something that I think is crucial, and that is there was a time when instrumentalists were immediately recognizable. You heard Hendrix, you heard Paul Simon, you heard James Taylor, you heard Jimmy Page, etc. You recognized them in one bar. Rye is very high on that list, one of the great stylists in my lifetime. That art is all but gone.
Why is that?
It beats the hell out of me, but it's heartbreaking because that was the exciting part of making records. I've worked for the last, you're not going to believe this, 20 years with a young guy who has brought that tradition back, and that's Blake Mills, who is not just a brilliant player, but an original thinker. And that's, not to segue into anything, but as a producer, that's what excites me. Someone with a point of view, whether it's a lyricist, a singer, a drummer, in any context. What I look for and what I believe the world looks for is that original voice. Rye was very much that original voice.
So to take us back to this song, there's so much to talk about. I kind of want to talk about the lyric and the vocal performance.
It's a rough lyric. It's a scary lyric.
What is this song about? What's happening?
I think it is designed to scare the listener. I think it is a collection of images and references all of which are slightly threatening, violent, political, sexual, all designed to get a rise out of the listener. And it's so perfectly suited to this film, which I consider quite brilliant. And Mick Jagger's great in it.
So this sort of signature Mick style of singing. This reminds me of Dylan and Jimmy and the lack of concrete notes.
Yes, in the 60s, and I would say because of Dylan and John Lennon, the notion that you had to have a traditional narrative or the reiteration of an easy hook lyric or some such thing, that was thrown out the window because songs were being tinkered with. The idea of what a song could and should be was being thrown out the window. It was a very exciting time. And this song, I think, is a good example of that.
Yeah.
Mick was trying to create an ethos here, and I think he did it very effectively.
Yeah.
Should we listen to the next tune?
Sure.
Let's do it.
The next tune is Salt of the Earth. Tim, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
This song is from the album Beggar's Banquet, and it starts with an opening vocal by Keith Richards. Mick Jagger was reportedly inspired by John Lennon to write an anthem for the working class. It features Nicky Hopkins on the piano and the Watts Street Gospel Choir on background vocals. Jagger and Richards played the song at the Concert for New York City a month after 9/11 with tweaked lyrics to make the message more positive.
Okay, here we go. Salt of the Earth.
Let's drink to the hard-working people. Let's drink to the lonely of birth. Raise your glass to the good and the evil. Let's drink to the salt of the earth. Say a prayer for the common foot soldier. Spare a heart for his back-breaking work.
What a recording.
Oh my God.
God.
Well, where to begin with this? What a Recording is right because it's Glyn Johns, and that is some serious recording. There's so many things about that song I find compelling. And, we're talking about the Rolling Stones in the 60s, so I feel about 500 years old. But I will say this about this song. It is unlike anything I've ever heard for its lyric ambiguity. It is ostensibly a paean to the common man. It's a drinking song. Raise your glass to the salt of the earth.
The hardworking people.
Correct. And then in the bridge, and I think I'm quoting accurately, when I search into this faceless crowd, a swirling mass of grays, blacks, and whites, they don't seem real to me. In fact, they seem so strange. What the fuck is going on? What happened to our narrator? He is letting you know, it seemed to me, of his own detachment
100%.
from that world.
How cool is that?
I'm not one of these people.
Yeah.
Now, I
he's
think
not.
that's a big lyric concept and very brave, very effective. You have an incredible song. I remember when I was a kid hearing it and thinking, well, that's not Mick singing that first verse, realizing it was Keith. And to a young listener, it signified a camaraderie that I loved. It made me think, wow, this is a club I wish I were in. And I think that's what bands are. I think we have a dearth of great bands today, and it's unfortunate. But this was a great example of that solidity, that unit, that camaraderie. And then Mick comes on and sings the rest of the song. Very odd choice and wonderful. I just find this song so exciting and so conflicted.
So you know how you can tell what parts John and Paul wrote by what they're singing almost all the time. Is it the same thing with the Stones?
Stones, I think, are a mystery.
Okay.
And for anyone who hasn't seen it, I urge you to watch the Godard film, Sympathy for the Devil, 1+1. And you will see, interspersed with some less than great agitprop drama, the Stones recording Sympathy for the Devil in the studio. And what distinguishes them is that they start every song as the worst band in the world. And all you can think is they are never going to get this.
Yeah.
It's just tragic.
You mean when they start playing, they sound terrible?
Well, this is a song that Mick wrote, and Mick plays it for the band. In his initial version of it, it's very Dylan-ish. And Keith then takes control and tries to interpret the song 20 different ways. And they're all dreadful. And then the next cut to the studio, Keith is playing bass. Bill Wyman has been relegated to a shaker off in the corner. And Keith is playing dum 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 dum.
You found the song.
And there it is.
Yeah.
And this is the alchemy of a band.
Right.
This is what makes bands so exciting.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think actually it's even broader than bands. When you were telling that story, the first thing that popped to my mind was the Churchill quote, or the quote that's attributed to Churchill. It's almost silly to say in the context of listening to music, but success is moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm.
Wonderful.
And like, I feel like you just get so many dud versions of the song before you hit something that works and resonates.
But also, can you imagine, a lot of records that you produce are with some of the greatest session musicians of all time. Can you imagine someone telling, Lee Sklar or Sebastian Steinberg, like, no, Matt Chamberlain saying, no, let me play the bass on this. Sebastian, go do a shaker.
Keith is unique in the history of music. I mean, he is a force.
In what way? That he's willing to change the song and rip things out and try new things and change parts?
In the way that he took what Chuck Berry gave us and transformed it into something that was never, in my opinion, a throwback. He continued to revitalize the rock and roll form and is, in my opinion, the greatest writer of rock music of all time.
I think even the little choices in this tune, the fact that the vocals start on the right and shift to the left for verse 2, like I literally have never.
Do you think they did that to drive home the point that that's
piano.
Keith?
Probably.
That's Keith.
Probably.
And this is a different guy. This is Mick.
But it also happens right when the piano enters. So you get guitar, you get acoustic, electric, and vocals in the left speaker, and just piano in the right speaker, right when the piano enters, and you get to hear this wonderful piano part.
Yeah.
It's it seems like there's multiple purposes for the shift, not just in changing vocalists, but also just to emphasize the new instrumentalists that are appearing.
Right.
But it was such a bold. The recording is full of these really bold, really clear choices that are
Yes.
unapologetic.
And I'm thinking Keith is playing bass on this as well. I'll tell you why. He has a fondness for first inversion chords. A first inversion chord puts the third in the bass, and it gives a sense, a slightly elevated sense. If you put the fifth in the bass, a second inversion chord, it gives you a grounding, a kind of church-like feel. He often plays a 5 chord with a third in the bass
That was
and treats it as a different chord than the root position.
and
E
was
to A to B,
and then it was
but D sharp in the bass.
Yeah.
He's going right.
So wait, what key is
It's
this
in E.
It's in E. So it's
Now D sharp in the bass under that B chord. Right. Right.
Yeah.
That to him is different than a first position B chord.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
It is. I mean,
he does it
feels
all the
different.
time.
Yeah.
It does. It elicits a response.
It also feels classical.
Can we talk about the drums in this song? Okay, the first thing that struck me is the entrance of just that first kick drum at the end of the first lyric.
Totally. Just
is-
a kick.
is massive.
Yeah.
Just like the impact of that one entrance.
Can we listen to that moment?
Yeah. Right there.
But just the one.
Now it's probably
An accident?
an accident,
Yeah.
and
But
nothing.
so effective.
Nothing is as good as an accident.
Exactly.
When you're a producer and somebody does something inadvertently and it excites you,
Yes.
you enshrine it because
Yes.
you know that down the road someone's going to listen to it and go, wait a minute, what was that? And these are the things the listeners glom onto and are responsive to. This triggers another conversation, and that is about misheard lyrics. And this is perhaps my favorite thing to discuss. There is a word for a misheard lyric.
What's the word?
It is mondegreen.
A mondegreen.
A mondegreen is a misheard lyric or line from a poem. And
Excuse me while I kiss
This
guy is a
Yeah.
classic mondegreen.
I used to think Jealous Guy was Yellow Sky.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they go on and on.
Yeah.
My brother thought the Lord's Prayer was lead us not into Penn Station. And, he may have been right. It might be a better line.
Mondegreens are often better than what was intended.
The studio is a great place to capture those mistakes because the studio is to sound as a microscope is to an image, right? Or to a slide. You are seeing something as you would never have seen it before, or hearing it as you never heard it. And those are exciting to me.
You're able to frame mistakes in a way that elevates them and puts the
Absolutely.
focus on, look at this thing that just happened.
which is what this kick drum is. Let's
Yeah.
listen to that kick drum one more
Yeah.
time because it's so special.
And who still till the earth.
There's
Now-
nothing down there.
There's nothing down there.
Now, you know that Charlie went, oops.
Yeah.
So,
But it's also kind of like it's the period at the end of that sentence. You know what I mean? It's
It comes right after that big build, and then it comes
and it's
down
on beat
again.
2, which
It's on
makes it
beat two.
even more
It's weird.
unorthodox. Yep.
Yeah.
It makes you expect something and then it doesn't come.
Embrace the unexpected.
Can we talk about the reverb on that choir, which just makes it sound like ghouls? It sounds like floating
Yeah.
ghosts just terrorizing us. It
Yeah.
feels like we're being haunted in the middle of this song, is what it feels like
it
for me.
evolves so beautifully. The song
Yeah.
does.
Listen to this.
This crowd, this wordy mess of grays, black and white. They
Yeah.
don't look real to me, or don't they look so strange?
It's the hardworking
Remarkable.
people.
Yeah,
It's the choir of the hardworking
it's the
people.
gang vocals.
There's something else going on this record, this album, Beggar's Banquet. It's the disappearance of Brian Jones. And it's very sad because Brian started the Stones. He named the Stones. He was the original leader of the band. He was quite a brilliant multi-instrumentalist. But by this time, he was a mess. And to my knowledge, he's only audible on one song on Beggar's Banquet.
He was just checked out.
Yeah, his mic really was off. But this is the transformation or the culmination of the transformation from the Stones being a democracy or a seeming democracy to Keith's band.
Crazy.
And I love all the stuff that precedes Beggar's Banquet, but I have to say I think this album is their greatest moment.
Let's move on to the last song. This is She Smiled Sweetly. Tim, tell us about this song.
This is from the 1967 studio album Between the Buttons. A few things make this album stand out. For one, kind of as Tony was mentioning, Brian Jones barely played guitar on this album and instead played a variety of instruments, including an organ, marimba, vibraphone, and kazoo. They recorded using 4-track machines, so the tracks of initial sessions were mixed down for overdubbing. Mick Jagger actually expressed disappointment with the final product because they thought the song lost clarity because of it. Mick and Keith both composed and wrote the lyrics. Jack Nietzsche was on piano, Charlie Watts was on the drums, and Keith Richards played electric guitar, bass, organ, and did the harmony vocals.
Let's listen to it. She Smiled Sweetly.
Why do my thoughts loom so large on me?
First version on that chord.
They seem
So
to
Dylan.
stay for day after day and won't disappear. I've tried every way, but she smiles sweetly. She smiles sweetly. She smiles sweetly and says, "Don't worry." Oh no, no, no.
What is that?
Yeah, what is that? There's so many interesting things.
I think so too.
I mean, the first thing that stands out to me there is like, God, it's just a bunch of diatonic triads, but they all come in the weirdest places. Diatonic triads are just chords made of 3 notes in a diatonic scale, which is the main scale that everybody can sing. Like a diatonic major scale is. And so chords in that scale are. And if you were to play chords that aren't in that scale, it would sound a little bit awkward or different like this. Very different than diatonic triads. The harmonic rhythm of the changes is so fucked.
And again, you know, it makes me happy to hear Jack playing piano on it because he was so important in my life when I was in my early 20s. And I'm hearing him on this doing his little Floyd Kramer piano licks, and it's just great. It's just a very unusual experience, that song.
Yeah. I love where the piano enters.
Yeah.
Where does the piano enter?
It enters
Late.
Yeah, very late in the song, but on the lyric.
And won't disappear, my hair's turning gray. But she smiles.
That's where you really notice it. Yeah.
She smiles sweetly.
It's almost
She smiles sweetly.
the only thing that changes there.
Don't worry.
It's the only thing that changes. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like the band is just kind of chugging along.
Yeah.
The piano is kind of controlling the emotional arc of the song.
You're making me think of something that is very typical of this era, which is when someone made a mistake, they would just mute him
Yeah.
and then unmute him when they liked what they
So
did.
So you
And
think he was playing for the first half of the
My
song,
guess is
and they
yeah.
just unmuted
Yeah.
him there?
That's my guess.
That makes
There's
sense.
so many examples of that on so many great records.
Why is this one of your favorite Stone songs?
Because I can't put my finger on how it makes me feel. It's the oddest emotional experience, that song. It seems at once loving and disdainful. And it's conflicted, as so many of Mick's lyrics are, or Keith might have written these lyrics, I don't know. But that's something they did especially well.
So we've been hanging out the last couple months, and it's been such a cool and awesome experience because there's something in your records that I've listened to my entire life that I resonate with so much.
That's so kind.
And I think what you just said highlights a big reason why, which is there's very rarely, like the stuff that you seem to be attracted to and the stuff that you seem to make is very rarely one thing.
Yeah.
You know, and the human experience is very rarely one thing. It's at least two sort of seemingly conflicting ideas that create a certain depth and struggle that exists in this and in most things that you
Yeah,
that
well,
you create.
that's nice of you to say. I love great lyricists, and I love harmonic motion. And when I meet someone who masters both, I just go out of my mind.
Yeah.
And my whole history as a musician is really about my attraction to those people. Whether it was Amy Mann or Michael Penn or Phoebe Bridgers, or I mean, I could go on and on. It's this ability to express an idea in an original way that is thought-provoking. It's not asking a question and necessarily answering it. It's asking a question and hoping you can figure it out. Well, that's the job of an artist.
It's the same thing with films too, right? It's
Right.
like the great protagonists are the ones that you can't quite put your finger on.
Yeah.
They're not this or that. They're kind of this blend of multiple things, and you don't really know how you feel
That's
about
the
them.
human experience.
That's the
I mean,
human experience.
Nobody's good or all good or all bad. We're all just
You know, it's
Existing.
crystallized for fans of Clockwork Orange by the question, is Alex better before or after the Ludovico treatment? So go watch that film and then you decide.
Another thing about the song that I love is the chorus, which feels like this build to something, is unrequited. She smiles sweetly, she smiles sweetly, she smiles sweetly. We think we're going somewhere, and it doesn't even, it just comes back down. It's just a wave that comes back
And
down.
what's the next line? And said, don't worry.
It's got this wonderful oceany kind of quality to it. It just
keeps unfolding.
keeps unfolding. Exactly.
Now-
There's that extended 5 chord before the second chord.
Yes, I love that.
2 extra beats maybe.
It's the simplicity and the complexity at once. But the way that the Stones do that is so different than the way the Beatles do that. At the same
Yes.
time, I mean, the Beatles, the Beach Boys, they're all using inversions masterfully. They're all using added bars, added beats here and there.
Odd time signatures.
Odd time
Yep.
signatures masterfully. I mean, there's so much to dig into in this recording. This makes me think of the way that bands feel time together.
Yeah.
This, to me,
What a great thing to discuss. Band time.
yes.
Yeah.
You hear the way they speed up and slow down, and like the fills come in weird places, and the sense of swing
great.
in this waltz is solid but unique.
When thinking about who the most influential people in the history of popular music are, you have to include Roger Lynn. And for better or for worse, the listener became accustomed to something that was perfectly in time from that point on,
The Lindrum.
the Lindrum. And then the listener became accustomed to things that were perfectly in tune.
Yeah.
And music,
Tragedy.
well, music,
Tragedy ensued.
Music, tragedy ensued. Right? Okay, I'll leave it at that.
It still sounds great. I think it's a reason that's often lost amongst on most people why this music sounds more different than music nowadays. Do you know what I mean?
I think you can listen to an album of this.
Yeah.
It's very hard to listen
Yes.
to an album of beat
Perfection.
corrected,
Yeah.
pitch
Yeah.
shifted.
Yeah.
Because this it reminds me of the sip test thing. You know, the sip test
don't.
thing with Pepsi and Coke.
Oh,
yeah.
when Pepsi won the sip test and then Coke changed their formula because they were like, oh, Pepsi won the sip test. We need to make it sweeter.
good band name, by the way.
But actually, the sip test is a good band name. What they found was actually people prefer Coke over a period of 2 hours
Right.
or something when you're just drinking a Coke and chilling out. You don't want something super sweet.
It's a volume war.
It's like too perfect.
Yeah.
And like it's the same with recordings. Like I don't want something to be I want something that's a little bit rough around the edges that I can listen to for an hour. I don't want something that's like rigid, you know?
Okay, I think we're out of time here. I could do this all day.
Well, that's very kind. Unfortunately, so could I.
Tony,
Huge thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you
you.
so much for being here.
Thank you, Tony. So great to have you.
Thank you guys for watching. If you like what you saw and heard, comment, subscribe. Let us know what we should react to next.
See you next time.